Okay, welcome everyone. We are in Quiet Mind Together, day 4. Okay, it's page 17, although we've redone it, so it might be 16 or 18, I can't remember. But silence your inner narrator. How to stop the mental noise that's been running the show. Ever seen someone muttering to themselves on the street, having a full-on argument with thin air? You probably thought, yikes, that person needs help. But here's the kicker. Most of us are doing the exact same thing, just silently. We've got this running commentary in our heads, talking at us non-stop. It judges, worries, remembers that embarrassing thing from 2003, plans the worst case scenario for next Tuesday's meeting, and occasionally narrates your own life like a bad audiobook. That voice is not you, it's your mind on autopilot, and you don't even realize it's been hijacking your life. That's why watching the thinker is so powerful. It's not some mystical trick. It just means stepping back and listening to that voice in your head instead of getting lost in its drama. And don't judge it when you hear it. Don't go, oh, why am I thinking that? Because guess what? That's the same voice sneaking in the back door. Instead, become the observer. Ah, there's that anxious loop again. Suddenly a tiny gap appears. That gap is you waking up. It might start with just a few seconds of mental silence, but those seconds are golden. In them, you're no longer a slave to your thoughts. You're aware of your own awareness. And as those gaps grow, so does your inner stillness. A peace so real, so grounded, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. And no, this isn't some weird trance. You're not zoning out, you're zoning in. You're more alert, more alive in your more alive than in your usual mind rush. You start to feel a quiet joy bubbling up from nowhere. That's the joy of simply being. It's subtle but powerful. And as you go deeper into that quiet space, you discover something wild. There's a version of you that's not defined by your body, your job, your past, or your thoughts. It's just presence, pure, peaceful, unshakable. Now, if sitting still and watching your mind sounds too abstract, here's a shortcut. Just pay ridiculously close attention to whatever you're doing. Washing your hands, washing your hands, feel the water, smell the soap, hear the splash. Walking upstairs, notice every step. There's a typo here. Breathing in the car before you start it, good. You're not doing these things to get somewhere. You're doing them to arrive in the present moment. That's how you practice no mind in real life. And here's the funny thing. The more you do this, the less seriously you take the voice in your head. One day you might even laugh at it, like watching a toddler throw a tantrum over a broken crayon. That's when you know you're free. But wait, you say, don't I need my mind to survive in this crazy world? Absolutely. Your mind is an amazing tool, but that's the thing, it's a tool. It's not supposed to run the whole show. Most of our thinking is just background static, repetitive, pointless, and often negative. It drains you like an app running non-stop in the background, and worst of all, it's addictive. We think we have to think or we'll disappear. That's just the ego talking. The ego is that made-up version of you, built from memories, fears, hopes, and Instagram-worthy projections. It can't survive in the now. That's why it drags you into the past to keep its story alive or shoves you into the future chasing some fantasy of peace. It never wants you fully here because in the present, it has no power. Want real freedom? Learn to disidentify from that egoic mind. Every time you catch yourself in the middle of a thought and pause, just breathe and watch. You reclaim a little more of your awareness. You step out of the illusion. You touch the real you, the one who's been quietly watching all along. And that right there is the beginning of everything you've been searching for. Again, that this is on a human level. Yeah, we're searching for more on a level of Israel. Okay, remember this book is for all human beings. Yeah, this isn't for Israel, it's for all human beings. On a human level, we understand that the work of Israel and the nations is almost identical, almost. On the level of Israel, they don't have that work at all, so it's infinitely different. But so on this level, this is for everyone. So there are a few little differences, but not really worth until you start learning on a very high resolution level about what it means to be swell. It's not that important to know right now. The questions are: what truly changes when you begin observing your thoughts instead of being absorbed by them? Is you just stop becoming part of the drama. It's like the difference between being the kid in the supermarket and having the tantrum and being the mature parent watching the kid in the supermarket having a tantrum. Or maybe even more, it's like watching somebody else's kid in the supermarket having a tantrum. That's I suppose the real goal of it. Okay, why are brief moments of mental silence described as so valuable? Because they give you a little glimpse into what life without that crazy voice in your head is, which is actually much more geschmack than we might even have imagined, or that we could have known is available. What is the deeper purpose of paying close attention to all the activities like breathing, walking, washing your hands? Well, it puts you into the now. What are you doing now? Yeah. Are you washing your hands so that you can eat bread, or are you washing your hands? So that obviously you are washing your hands so that you can eat bread, but are you washing your hands? Are you when you're washing your hands, are you actually experiencing the washing of your hands? Okay, that's a very we'll talk about that as well, Tasha. Okay, so let's go. I'm gonna keep. I've had a couple of not complaints but requests that we keep questions out until half past. I think we agreed. I said from 6:30 we'll like take questions. So I'm just gonna try and give over as much as possible for the next 23 minutes, and then we're available for questions. And if you can remind me, Shlomo Menachem, I wanted to respond to our there's a very important point that I wanted to put into our conversation that we had last week. So if you can remind me, I hope I don't forget. Okay. So ever seen someone muttering to themselves on the street, having a thought? Basically, when somebody's talking out loud, yeah, it's just the same as us having that crazy thing. It's just, have you ever caught yourself like in the middle of davening where you've been praying and then all of a sudden you've like said something in English that you were thinking in your head and you kind of caught yourself, or I've done that a few times. You sometimes don't know that what's the difference between thinking things in your head and actually saying that out loud? It's not such a big difference. That's what he's talking about here. So a crazy person, that voice has gotten so loud and so intense in their head that they've actually just started speaking it out loud. We're only a hop, skip, and a jump away from that most of the time. Most of us are doing the exact same thing, just silently. We've got this running commentary in our heads, talking at us non-stop. That's a very important point. It's talking at us. Yeah, it doesn't want to hear back from you. It's just talking. In fact, the minute you respond to it, yeah, then that means you've actually released yourself from it a little bit. Yeah, but it's talking at us. Yeah, it judges, worries, remembers that embarrassing. The real thing is it judges. It is like a measuring tool. That's really what the mind is in many ultimately the mind is a tool that measures, an incredibly sophisticated measuring tool. It's interesting because the arts and the sciences are like two of the like the most extreme uses of the mind. Yeah, the sciences are measuring with numbers. Yeah, the arts are actually measuring without number. It's still measuring like an artist. Like I'm coming from a world of photography and art and stuff. And what an artist does, I'm not talking about funny things that people do nowadays, but the concept of creating something beautiful on the page, yeah, not talking about philosophy or whatever, but creating something beautiful on the page is very much like cooking. Like when you eat food, a master chef, they'll taste the food and they'll be like that and they'll work out they need a bit of this or a bit of that, or etc. etc. Yeah, a master painter or a master art, yeah, a master artist, a master musician, a master writer will read or look or hear or see whatever it is that they're seeing, and they'll measure. They wouldn't usually use the word measure, but that's really what's going on. They're measuring in their mind without numbers and then they're adjusting accordingly. So that's really what the mind does. The mind is a measuring tool. Yeah, that's why it's so into comparison, like comparing me to him or her to him, etc., etc. We have to try and get out of that. Um, Yeah, that voice, it's not you. It's your mind on autopilot. That's the very important point. It's on autopilot. It's like digestion. It's like your digestive system just runs in the background, Baruch Hashem. Yeah, you don't have to pay attention to it. You don't have to do anything to it. That's just what it does. Yeah, so too with your mind. If you don't rein it in, if you don't get some kind of control over it, it just talks in the background. White no- it's just like white noise, but unfortunately, it's usually not innocuous. It's usually very negative and destructive and poisonous in many ways. And it says it's hijacked you. That's really what it does. You don't even realize it's been hijacking your life. That's what it does. It hijacks you. It see the way we understand it works with your lower side. Yeah, you have what's called your intellect and you have your emotions. Okay, your intellect is literally it's just a calculator, a very sophisticated calculator. It doesn't have any agenda of its own. It's just a calculator. Your emotions, on the other hand, are where you begin, where your sense of self begins. The idea of intellect, pardon me, the idea of intellect is it's objective. Yeah. If my, 2 times 2 equals 4, is the same for me, the same for you, the same for everyone. And when I die, yeah, at Me'er that 2 times 2 equals 4 is going to be exactly the same. Doesn't make any difference whether I'm here or not here. It's completely objective. That's what seichel is. That's intellect. The emotions, on the other hand, my love for you, yeah, or my fear of you, etc. Yeah, well, that's completely about me. The minute I die, yeah, my love for you also dies with me as well, or wherever I go after that, whatever it is. But love is completely your emotions are completely subjective, they're all about me, and intellect is completely objective. So what's the problem? The problem is in our lower self, which has an intellect and emotions, is that the emotions that are selfish, they go up into the mind and hijack the mind and they start now producing selfish, destructive thoughts. It's a good analogy is a holy person. Yeah, they give birth. Their emotions always come from the mind, always. So you can't. If I ask you, how do you feel about what's going on in Rwanda right now? Yeah, you'll look at me and like, I don't know what's going on. And then I'll tell you what's going on, and then you'll start to have emotions. And the more detail, the more your intellect understands, the more emotions you'll have. So emotions are always born from the mind. Yeah. So in a holy situation, the mind gives birth to the emotions as always, and then the mind steers the emotions. It allows you to love the right things. It allows you to hate the right things or fear the right things, etc. In the unholy situation, the mind, as always, gives birth to the emotions, but then the emotions turn around and hijack the mind, and then you start thinking about the way the emotions are. So the analogy for that is a family. Yeah, the mind is called the parents, and the emotions are called the children. So the parents always give birth to the children. That's just how it goes. Yeah. I never knew of any other way other than that. Yeah. So the parents give birth to the children. Now what happens? In the holy house, the parents, sorry, in the holy house, the parents educate the children. In the unholy house, the children, so to speak, hijack the parents, and the children get spoilt by the parents. Does that make sense? That's the two ways it works. That's the only two options, or maybe there's room in the middle. Either you are steering your emotions, or your emotions are steering your mind. Either your mind is steering your emotions and you're having intelligent emotions, healthy, productive emotions, or your emotions they hijack your mind and they take over your mind. And now this is the analogy goes further. It's a very good analogy because um, if the parents are very wealthy, yeah, we know that the tragedy of what it can be when a child gets spoiled, yeah. There's also a tragedy of when the child gets deprived, but when a child is spoilt, that's tragic. I mean, the word is spoilt, like spoilt milk. It's terrible. Yeah. So the more money the parents have, the more tragic it can be for the children in that sense. If parents don't have any means, then how much can they spoil the children? It can't get too out of hand. Yeah. So that's analogous for a powerful mind. Wealthy parents is in the analogy of powerful mind. If a person has a very powerful mind, yeah, then their emotions have got access to a much more powerful tool, and that can be a disaster. If the mind is less powerful, then the emotions can't have, they don't have access to such a powerful tool, and it's not going to be, it won't be so terrible. Does that make sense to people? Yeah. So the more intelligent we are, the more we have to make sure we're in line, our emotions are in line, that we're in we are our emotions are in check, because the more intelligent we get, the more dangerous it becomes, because the more powerful your thinking is, yeah, the more the larger your vocabulary. So if you have a difficult night, like we spoke about this in Journey to Blessed Life, if you have a difficult night with your kids, and you say, wow, that was really hard, yeah, that's very different saying that was punishing, or that was torturous, or that was, the more powerful the larger your vocabulary, the more power the more your command of your language, then the more dangerous it gets. Just quite simply, just the more dangerous it would get. Okay. That's why watching and thinking is so powerful. It's not some mystical trick. It just means stepping back and listening to that voice in your head. So we're less than enjoy. I mean, instead of identifying with that thought, I've had a friend of mine as a psychologist is telling me about one of his clients or patients who was talking about having suicidal thoughts. And they were talking about as they're walking along the street, jumping into the oncoming traffic. Yeah, they keep having these thoughts. So I the see they said to my friend, I'm suicidal. And what I would do is I would reframe that and say, no, you're not suicidal. You're just having suicidal thoughts. And what that means is there's a certain kind of mind that makes shidduchim. It makes matches, and there's a certain kind of mind that just doesn't do that. So there's certain people. I had this thing. I thought I was really like I was very concerned about myself, and I'd walk up the stairs holding one of my children as a baby, and I would think about what would it be if the child fell down, if I dropped the child down the thing. And I was like, stop it, stop it. And I felt so every time I'd walk up as I was holding my child, and that thought would come into my mind, I'd go, oh. And one day I was walking up on Shabbos with my stender and my books, yeah, and I had the same thought. What would it look like if I dropped that down the stairs? What would that look like? And I realized so it wasn't any crazy thoughts. It's just that's how my mind puts things together. You're holding something, you're up high. Well, what would that look like if it dropped down? That's just my mind. That's just what my mind does. People's minds put things together. That doesn't mean you're evil or you're suicidal. It just means that that's what your mind's doing. In that, you're walking down the street, it sees cars coming this way, and it just puts the two and two together. What would that look like if I jump out in front of the car? How would that play out? It doesn't mean that a person's suicidal. The problem is when they start to identify with those thoughts, then they are suicidal. Once you've identified with the thoughts, then you have become evil. Then you are, etc., whatever the thoughts are. Yeah, that's the issue, is to try to watch that, to be aware that there's a voice in your head. It's not you. That is it. If we just said that for an hour, it would be worth it. To be aware that there is a voice in your head, and that voice is not you. Yeah, you are the one who has the voice in their head. And therefore, whatever the voice is saying, it's some kind of funny program that's been running. If you've been looking at all kinds of funny stuff on YouTube or violent things, then it's going to have a violent kind of streak to it. Yeah, if you've been looking at, stupid videos of cats or something, it's going to have a stupid, irrelevant streak to it, whatever your search history says about you. Okay. But the minute you do see that gap, yeah, he says that is you waking up. And it is, it really is. Most people don't even know about this, literally. Let's just go forward, page 18. It says you start to feel a quiet joy bubbling up from nowhere. Yeah, that's a joy of simply being. It's subtle but powerful. As you go deeper into that quiet space, you'll have something wild. There's a version of you that's not defined by your body, your job, your past, or your thoughts. It's just presence, pure, peaceful, unshakable. Yeah, that's the space in which the war rages. So in the space of Israel, yeah, there's a war, we call it between the Yetzer and the Yetzer Tov. It's really not. It's really between, the way I understand it, it's really the war between two different souls, between the created human soul and between the non-created godly soul. That's where that, what he's talking about here, which is we calls enlightenment, yeah, which is available to all human beings, is the stepping into the space. See, by Yisrael, we have these two souls warring with each other. So when we step back into the space and just appreciate the space and what's going on in the space, that's not what we're meant to do. That's what a human being's meant to do. We're meant to do that and then to identify them with the voice of, call it the neshama, the nefesh elokis, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, but the godly soul. Yeah, the uncreated soul. That's the work of a Jew. The work of the Jew is to disidentify from the human soul and to, yes, identify with the godly soul. The work of a human being is to disidentify from the human soul. Finished. That's it. And to be in this state of expansiveness, of enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. This is just a prerequisite for our work. It's just our work doesn't really begin until we can well it does it also because you can just do mitzvahs anyway, but real mitzvahs lishma, which is what we're aiming for, which means selfless service, that is only available to a person who is able to do what we're talking about here, to disidentify from that incessant chatter, that human chatter in your mind, and then to re-identify with the so to speak the voice of the neshama, which isn't it doesn't have so much of a voice, doesn't talk so much. Okay, just go back. Yeah, you're doing them to arrive in the present moment. That's how that's how you practice no mind in real life. So we're talking about doing all these different things, yeah. So it's like, I mean, if you traveled, I traveled as a kid for quite a long time, and I just remember I did a lot of actual traveling, not just like hanging out in places. I actually did like some really intensive traveling, and I remember that, and it's the same for me nowadays as well. Like I just that is like, why is it all about getting there? Why is it no, so not no, why is it all about being there? Why can't you be here? I told you the story about the Kotzker Rebbe. I tell that story. Well, I'm not sure about the actual details and whatever, but the story is the story. It's still the one of his Hasidim burst into his office and told him that the train from, like, Warsaw to Krakow has been completed. And he said, instead of, like, a 14-hour horse ride, it's going to be a 1 hour train ride. And the Kotzker Rebbe's response was, "What's the rush?" I love that. What's the rush? Like when you're really enlightened, you're fine, wherever you are. You're not trying to get someplace. You're always here. You're always here. And that means that you're not projecting forward or obsessing in the past. Remember, it's the same. Depression and anxiety are the exact same thing. It's negative self-thinking projected backwards. That's called depression. And negative self-thinking projected forwards, that's called anxiety. It's the same thing. Okay. Um, and here's the funny thing: the more you do this, the less seriously you take the voice in your head. One day you might even laugh at it, like watching a toddler throw a tantrum over a broken crayon. That's when you know you're free. If the kinds of things that we get upset about, if you take a second out and think about it seriously, it's absolutely insane. The kinds of things that get on people's nerves, and like, it really is. And it just takes that little bit. That the problem is the ego is so invested. I mean, this is the ego. So the minute you, like, look it in the eye and you're like, what are you talking about? You're being absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, well, he can't like nothing that is alive, so to speak, wants is willing to give up its existence. So it's like telling an angry person, if somebody's really angry, which means they've identified with anger. So a really angry person, the way that a normal person says it is, I am angry. Yeah. An enlightened person would say, there is anger in me right now, or even more enlightened would be, there's anger moving through me right now. Yeah, you pay attention to the feeling. It's not like you dismiss and you pretend you don't have some kind of anger there. Yeah, you accept it, you appreciate it, but it doesn't define you. But a really angry person, he wouldn't say, yeah, there's anger passing through me for sure. He wouldn't say there's anger in me. He wouldn't even say I am angry. He probably would. But what he really is saying is I am anger. That's what a really angry person is. He says, I am anger. Now turn around to a person who is anger and say to them, relax, man, chill out, relax. What happens? That's like handing someone a gun and saying, kill yourself, because you're asking the anger to go away. You're talking to the anger, and the anger's like, what are you talking about? That's why when somebody's genuinely angry, as the Mishnah says as well, you shouldn't say anything to them. It will just get them more angry. That's the reason, because there isn't a person there. There is just anger. You want to go a little bit further? Is that you ever, as a frum Jew, this happens a lot. Yeah, as a frum Jewish man who prays, this happens a lot. Let's say whatever you have please excuse. I'm going to talk about ice cream. Okay, don't get all upset. Oh, you can't eat ice cream. No, I'm not. Just okay. You're walking to shul and you have this overwhelming taiva desire to eat some ice cream. Yeah, and you know you don't need it. You're fat enough and you've eaten dessert anyway, and there's just absolutely no need. But there's this crazy desire in you to go and eat ice cream. Yeah. But there's a problem because it's now 8:59, yeah, and the shop next to the shul, if you go into the shop to get the ice cream before you daven, yeah, you're gonna miss the time of davening. So Hashem orchestrated it that you have to go and daven with this taiva, this desire in you to go and get the ice cream, yeah? And then you'll go and get the ice cream 15 minutes later after Ma'ariv, yeah? I think everybody's been through this, yeah. So now you're davening, you're praying to God, and you say to yourself, well, look, why don't I just ask him to take away this desire for the ice cream? I know I don't want it. Why don't I just ask him to take it away? And you can't do it. And you realize that to ask him to take that tithe away is just as difficult as just not walking into the shop. They're both possible, but they're both equally uncomfortable. It's no less comfortable just not walking into the shop than it is asking Hashem to take that feeling away. Why? Because it's the same thing. It's you. That's what's happened at that moment when you've identified with the tither. There's no you and the tither. There's no you and the desire. There's just the desire, depending on how strong it is. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's a scary thing to do, but you see it, but you can't. That's why it's so difficult to pray for things about, in the heat of the moment. Why can't you just turn around, go to the corner, and just pray to God that you don't get angry? Because it's not that you want to be angry, you are anger. That's the whole point. This is the thing. That's what happens when you identify with the emotion, with the feeling, with the desire, with the taiva. You are it. So you can't pray for it. You have to just white knuckle it, and maybe you can get in the back door and start to. But usually the prayer is like half-hearted, and it's you have to work that out. How can you do it? Delay yourself, stop yourself, splash yourself with some water, whatever it is you have to do to get that space so that you can disidentify. Okay, I'm going to keep going a little bit. Sorry, I said we'll have questions now, but let me just keep going. Yeah, and but wait, you say I don't need my mind surviving. Absolutely, your mind is essential. You can't live in this world without your mind, obviously, yeah. We're just talking about being able to disidentify from the mind. That's what we're talking about. Your mind is, this is, Stephen Covey said it with money. He said, money is a great slave and a terrible master. Yeah. But then I said, in our generation, I said, technology is a fantastic slave and a terrible master. Yeah. But I think this is the ultimate, is your mind is a phenomenal slave and an absolutely detestable master. I couldn't say it any stronger. That's really the point, is when you're in control of your mind, you can save the world. When your mind is in control of you, yeah, not good. Not good at all. Um, yeah, most of the thinking is just background, static, repetitive, pointless, and often negative. It's just programs. It's just a program running. Depends where you were born, depends how old you are, depends what you watched on YouTube, depends what you learn, who you speak to, where you live, etc. It just creates a program. And that's just the mind. It's just a very, very, very sophisticated calculator that has it's an AI. You know what? That's what it is. It's an AI. It's an AI. It's not a calculator. It's an AI. It's with a GPT with a programmed kind of um with a program, and it drains you like an app running nonstop in the background. Absolutely, and worst of all, it's addictive. We think we have to think or we'll disappear. And that's just the ego talking. I don't even remember this now. I've been taking this kind of work so seriously for so long, Baruch Hashem, that I don't remember that. But I know, I know that it is like that. The ego is that made up version of you built from memories, fears, hopes, and inscomming projections. Like we said, it's just a program that's running from past information that's formed the mind in a certain way. And it can't survive in the now. That's why that's this whole thing is just being present. Yeah, just being here now as opposed to there or there. Just being here now. Have you ever noticed? You ever been in Jerusalem, yeah, or any old place, and you're like looking over the ruins, ancient ruins, and you see like there's the mikveh and then there's the amphitheater. There's all this stuff, yeah, and you're trying to imagine how it was, but it's like so not there. Even though you see it and you're trying to think about the people, it's just so non-existent. That's the word, non-existent, yeah. Now, but this is really also amazing, is your next door neighbor, yeah, in the house, their house adjacent to you, they're in a different place. It's just as non-existent as your friend in LA or in London or whatever it is. It's also as non-existent. If you're not in the same time and the same place, it doesn't exist. You can imagine, but it's just like fantasy. It's literally fantasy. The fact that it's happening in the room next door to you, yeah. If you can hear something, that's different. But if it's happening in the room next, and it's happening in the room next door to you, it's the same as if it's happening in 10,000 miles away from you. And if it happened yesterday, yeah, and there's no there's no blood on the floor or something like that, chas v'shalom, then it's the same as if it happened 10,000 years ago. If it's not here right now, it's equally distant. Does that make sense? Did I say that right? If it's not here now, if it's not the same time and place, it's all equally distant, meaning it's not real. If something happened yesterday, it might be the memories are fresher, but the actual action itself is as distant from you as if it happened 10 years ago. The actual thing, if it's not here and now, it's not real. That's the point. If it happened or if it will happen, it's not real. So constantly bringing yourself back to now, which means, when you look at a tree, like we have one of those seeds in Blessed Life, when you look at a tree, just look. Don't label it. Don't compare, contrast, like, dislike, try and label it, name it, etc. Yeah, just look. Just look like how a 1-year-old looks at something. Look at your. Well, I've got a 2-year-old now. I love looking at him look at stuff. He came into my office on Shabbos, and all my computers are covered over with like a white sheet. He's never seen that before, and he walks in. He's just like, and he doesn't speak. So I know there's no language going on in his mind. He's just looking at it. It's new to him. Just there's no words. Well, how would that feel if you just look at something and it's new? but you're not labeling it. Like we have these pictures in my front room, like there's for all intents and purposes, it's a picture of a forest. Yeah, it's a picture of a forest with a little guy, a very small man praying in a talus. What's the first thing people ask? It's just the forest. They say, "Where's that?" And you're like, "It's just the forest. Who cares?" It's just, like, why do you care where that is? You know, that's like the first question that pops into people's minds there, and other things as well. What are they trying to do? They're trying to label it. They're trying to take some kind of ownership over it. When you can label it or name it, that's why Adam named the chayas, the animals in Gan Eden. It's a level of ownership. But what about if you can let go and you don't have to take ownership? Yeah, that's very holy. You just became more human, not more Jewish, more human. Okay, so real freedom, you want real freedom, you have to learn how to disidentify from that egoic mind. And every time you catch yourself in the middle of a thought and pause, just breathe and watch. You reclaim a little more of your awareness. You step out of the illusion, you touch the real you, the one who's been quietly waiting all along. He's going to say something later on in the book, which I did a lot, which is like pretend like you're a cat, yeah, and there's a little mouse hole, and you're catching when the thought comes out. You're trying to be silent, 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 and then all of a sudden the thought pops out of that little mouse hole. Be aware and keep practicing. It's practice. It's not a quick fix. It's really not a quick fix, but it's practice. And if you can like like I said, that mouse hole thing that I did for so many hours, I used to do it when I was running. Yeah, and I just used to turn off. I didn't have any music or any shear or anything like that. I'd run in silence, and I would just try and empty my mind and be completely silent. And then I'd think about the fact that the Bluetooth wasn't connected, and then I'd go, ah, got you. That's okay. Stop. Back. Silent, and just keep pulling yourself back, and then eventually that voice just kind of lets go. Literally, just lets go, and just lets you be. And then when someone, someone cuts you up in the street, like was it yeah, a few days ago, just before Shabbos, yeah, I there was a bus that was kind of parked. It was moving slowly, and I overtook it in Sanhedrin Mochevet. It was a long bus, and as I'm on the wrong side of the road, there's lots of room in front of me, yeah, but he started to speed up. Like that was very dangerous. I was in the middle of the whole length of his bus, yeah, and I'm driving trying to overtake him, and he started to speed up to not let me go. And that's very, I mean, there was room in front, but it was very, very dangerous. So I sped up very fast, and got in front of him, and like I open my window, and am I angry? I'm like, no, but that was very dangerous. And I put my hand out the window, I put my hood, and I put my hand out the window, and like went like, what are you doing? That was it. But I wasn't judging it like as a I didn't get in the old days. I would have gotten very angry over that. Yeah, but this is like, look, he's an idiot. Yeah, what he did was very dangerous. But why am I going to give him my inner? Why am I going to give him my inner peace? Why he nearly killed me and trashed my car. I'm not going to give him my inner world as well. Yeah, that's the same thing. Not in any go way. I'm just saying that the voice isn't shouting at you anymore. It's not like I can't believe that guy's sitting in my seat anymore. The guy's sitting in your seat, and you come over to him and you say, can I bring you your siddur or something like that, as opposed to why are you sitting in my seat? Because that's the voice again shouting out, like how dare he? Does he not know that I've spent 10 years like marking my territory in the shul? How can he not be aware of this? Even the people behind me know this is my seat. Yeah, that's that same voice. And then he says, and that right there is the beginning of everything you've been searching for, which it isn't. It's the beginning of just becoming a normal person. And then we can start to get on with what we're really here to get on with, which is serving Hashem, Torah and mitzvahs. Okay, if anybody wants to speak, you can 1 minute. You can unmute yourself and say hello. Any questions?
Hey, how are you, Rebbe?
Yeah.
Just wanted to say about rather than I took it kind of to a new level, rather than just focusing on the ego. And when you think about these thoughts, and you try to that the ego and removing yourself from the egoic mind, I just found recently that giving yourself self-love, right? One of your videos where you said baby's born, he has value, right? He doesn't have a bank account, he doesn't have anything. So I made this thing of holding myself as holding a baby with value, treating yourself as gold, right? And that's giving yourself that unconditional love kind of puts the ego in the background, and giving yourself that unconditional self-love that is going to
I
appease.
mean, I hear that. Yeah, you have to be careful. I hear that. There's that of accepting yourself as well. Like when you have these negative voices, it's very easy to get angry at yourself. But it's that's just the voice came from the back door, like you said earlier on. It's the same voice. He's just put on now like a frock and a hat. Yeah, that's his it's the same voice. So just that idea of having patience with yourself and again, I suppose it's similar to what you're saying, a little bit different, but I appreciate I've never done what you said before, but it sounds interesting. Square. Yeah, Aluza.
Yeah. First of all, I want to tell you thank you. It helped me a lot. This week I had a situation, and instead of making it a problem, I treated it as a situation. So it's
Ah, that's a really good way of saying it. That's exactly the way
okay,
of saying it. Yeah, excellent.
okay. But it's thanks to the book. Just one question: how do you reconcile waiting for Mashiach and for the Geila with with the book, with a quiet mind, not a future? As Jews, we have to be uncomfortable with the now and wait for the.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, we have to be uncomfortable with the Vera, but we have to realize that when we're involved in a mitzvah, which is basically, yeah, there should be, yeah, you have mitzvah available to you 24/7. When you're involved in mitzvah, you should feel that you're here, you're home. We're looking forward. I'll answer probably in a couple of ways. Just comes to my mind. Number one, there's the actual mitzvah of looking forward to Mashiach. That's a mitzvah in itself. That's something you're doing right now, which is a positive act right now. But then there's also the idea of looking. I mean, really, Mashiach is not for us. Mashiach is for the Ribono Shel Olam. Mashiach is when his creation is complete. It's not our creation; it's his creation. So I mean, Mashiach coming is. I don't know what everybody, how everybody thinks it's going to be. Most people, from what I gather, people understand Mashiach basically being an end of all pain and suffering. Yeah, marriages are going to start getting easier. People are going to get healed. There's not going to be any pain. Panassa's going to work itself out. Yeah, all of that is such a side point of what Mashiach actually is. Mashiach, the way I understand it, Mashiach is basically the Ribono Shel Olam will have free expression into his world. Until it's like in the sense this world, yeah, if you could say such a thing, is like his body, yeah, if we can say that, yeah, that's how the Sfarim speak about it. Yeah, this world is the outer manifestation of him, just like your body is the outer manifestation of you. And when you're acting in a way that how you want to act, meaning Gullus is the way I've learned from my Rebbe, Gullus is a a break, a disconnect. Gullus is a disconnect between who you are and what you do. So a person in active addiction is in gullus, according to this, because somebody who doesn't want to be, he's addicted, he keeps doing this thing that he hates, yeah? Yeah. If you're doing something that you don't want to do, that's called gullus. There's you, and then there's what you do. Yeah. It should be a clean line that you are doing what you do, that you do as you wish. If you are being um if you if there's an interruption, yeah, and a break between who you are and how you're behaving, that's called gullus. So gullus Shechina, yeah, they understand it, means that Hashem's body, so to speak, this world, his desire is for Torah and mitzvahs. He has 613 modes of behavior. Now, Kolzman, the entire time that the world isn't running according to Torah and mitzvahs, that in a sense is like you and me not behaving in the way we want to behave. See, in his infinite humility, he handed the keys to his behavior over to us, over to Klal Yisrael. So when we're all involved in Torah and mitzvahs and we're living our life as Torah Jews, the Rebbeinu Shalom goes like this, so to speak, and that's what's called nachas ruach. Yeah, because we spoke about before, so it went off a little bit, but I think it's important to speak out. Is what does it mean when we say nachas? Yeah, the real term is nachas ruach. So we spoke about the seichel, the intellect generates the emotions. Yeah. Now the question is, does the seichel stay in control of the emotions and educate the emotions, or do the emotions go back and kind of manipulate and hijack the intellect? Yeah. But that's a loop inside. That's a more complex idea. But the basic way it goes is the intellect gives birth to emotions, and the emotions are expressed in behavior. Emotions need to be expressed into behavior, otherwise you will feel stifled and like you'll feel like that. Yeah. So if you love someone deeply, you have to go and do something for them, or you have to speak to them, tell them, or say something. There has to be some kind of like, it's like the emotions are like an inner kind of energy, and the behavior, yeah, which is in this case really doing and speaking, maybe thinking, maybe that's more complex, doing and speaking, that allows that energy to be released. So when you're behaving correctly in a line with who you are, that means your emotions are like letting off steam, and they're going, that's good behavior. So nachas ruach, ruach is a code word for emotions. So Hashem gets nachas ruach when Am Yisrael are involved in Torah and mitzvahs, because that's him allowing his emotions, so to speak, to get expressed through our behavior. Because like we said, that's called giving us his malchus. He gave us his behavior. So when we behave, he has a nachas ruach. What happens when we misbehave? He gets charon af. Charon af is like when you blow like air out of your nose, and that causes trouble for Am Yisrael. That's like anger. It comes out your nose. The air comes out your nose. So if we're doing as we're meant to be doing, he gets nachas ruach, and that's how it's meant to be. And there's a free flow from the very essence of what reality is. If you want to call that God, to the very outer layer of this world, which is the world of action, which is where the mitzvahs take place. And the whole of reality just got completely unified from the very essence, from the highest place, call it Kesser, call it Ak, whatever you want to call it, yeah, Hochmilah, whatever you want, the highest of all places, yeah, yeah, it comes all the way back down through, even call it Ein Sof, it comes all the way back down, and it expresses itself in the midst of this world. All of reality just got completely unified, and that's called Hashem having a nachas ruach. If we don't do what we're meant to do, then he has charon af, which means he blows air out of his nostrils, and that causes problems for us, which will eventually get us back in line, because we have to do what he wants. It's just that's the system. So we have to get put back in line. So either there's a nachas ruach or there's an charon af. The nachas ruach is Hashem going, Baruch Hashem. And the charon af is Hashem going, can't you just get this right? Please behave yourselves, please. And that comes out and causes problems for us, and eventually we'll. Sorry. Okay, I need to run. Yehuda, very quickly, then I need to run.
Yeah. Well, was there something you wanted to add from last week? You mentioned.
Oh, there isn't time now. Yeah, thank you. Next week, it's a whole thing I want to mention next week. B'ezras Hashem. We'll talk about that next week. Try and remind me next week, and we'll talk about it. It's a very important. But I'll say on one leg, to say that we are better. Yeah, to say that Am Yisrael is better than the Ummah Olam, and you saw a lot of people couldn't handle that. Yeah. To say that we are the same is just as egoic. To say that we are better is egoic, but to say that we are the same and to not be able to appreciate that there's a difference between us is also coming from a deep ego. See, the holy way of seeing it is you see the entire picture. Like, what's more important, your kidneys or your brain or your feet? Well, you'll say the brain's more important, but if you're looking at the big picture of a perfect, if you even the toenails, a perfect human being has 10 toenails. When you're looking at the big picture, yeah, on that sense, the brain and the toenails are absolutely essential. That's the holy way of seeing things. If you're looking through egoic eyes, which sees everything compartmentalized and fragmented, yeah, well, then there's the brain, and that's much better than the heart, and that's much better than the lungs, and that's much better than the hands, and that's much better than the toenails, etc. So that was it on one leg. Maybe you can take that and think about yourselves. Okay, I'm going to run. All the best, everyone. See you next week. B'ezrat Hashem.
Thank you.
Okay, Kol Tov Zaygasm.
Thank
Thank
you.
My
Ciao,
pleasure.